That's just, it's true. And they've known this for millennia. Free
So,
love
like,
agenda on
just
their side.
being a nice,
He had no idea how to like budget and stuff like that. No, he just had endless parties until it was over and became poor. And now, I don't know, I think he might be dead, I don't know.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Sulk stream. I'm your host, the Incredible Sulk, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic evening. How's it going, guys? Let's crank this up a little bit. There we go. There we go. There we go. Did you guys enjoy Ardenshire's little commercial? The new commercial by Ardenshire. Loved it. I thought it was really good. It was funny. Ardenshire is here. He said third. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys are having a great Thursday night. It's Thursday, right? It is Thursday, October 3rd, 2024, and we are minutes, seconds, hours away from World War III. And, you know, it's such a heavy subject. If we're gonna be doing a heavy subject like that, why not mess around and just go with the whole biblical bullshit? I'm not saying it's bullshit, but the theme, right? So I found an interesting little cartoon video about the overview of Satan's plan. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was good, and you know, I have to find material for this show every night, and sometimes you just pick something, right? And I think you guys are going to enjoy this. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you guys are out there achieving your dreams and being good cult members, making me proud. You can't make me unproud. You can't make me ashamed of you. I'm so proud of you. I love you, right? If you don't hear that enough, or you haven't heard that enough in your life, I'm here for you. Right? Old Sulk loves you. Just remember that. Okay? So when you have that gun in your mouth, and or you're at the edge of that bridge, just remember, Old Sulky's here for you. Old Sulky's here for you. And he needs you to watch. Right? It's so important. It's so important. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for coming. Yeah. Arden's commercial. Let's watch it again. I'm gonna watch it one more time, just in case it didn't play properly, which I'm pretty sure it did. But we're gonna just do it one more time, just because I want to. Because it's a good. It's funny. It's good.
And they've known this for millennia. Free love
So, like,
agenda on
just
their side.
being a nice,
He had no idea how to like budget and stuff like that. No, he just had endless parties until it was over and became poor.
It says 7
And
p.m.
now, I don't know. I think he might be dead. I don't know.
Eastern time. It says 7 p.m. Eastern time. But you're here at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I just wanted to make that clear. You're here every night, Ardenshire. What time do you get? But he's on the West Coast, right? So for him, I'm on at 6? 5? Damn, that's early. Early bird, Ardenshire. Well, thanks for coming, guys, and thank you, Ardenshire, for putting in the work. I really appreciate that. I'm gonna incorporate that into the show somehow, if I or just post it. I'll figure something out to do with it. I like it. I like the work. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys are ready, right? This will be a chill stream. I don't know if a lot of people are going to show up tonight. I don't really care, because, I don't know, I know other people are streaming like Pessy and stuff like that. That's fine, right? We're going to have a chill one, and this one's kind of very, I don't know if there's going to be a lot I can say about it, but I'm going to try. You know what? I'm going to try. So, thanks for coming. I hope you guys are out there being the best cult members ever, spreading the good word of the Sulk, being cool to your moms and stuff, right? Because they deserve it. They deserve you to call them and, be like, how you been? I mean, you might see your mom a lot more than I do. I don't see my parents very often. But, yeah. Be good to each other, Be good to each other. Anyways, guys, get ready. Get comfy. Get a nice cup of hot cocoa. Maybe an adult beverage if that's your style. I'm not here to judge. I might judge. I'm not going to judge. You guys do you and get nice and comfortable and get some comfy slippers on and maybe a robe and put that towel on your head and, have a nice rose petal bath. And is that just me? Am I the only one that does that? With a nice glass of Chardonnay. Very fruity. Very, very fruity. Anyways, guys, once again, thank you so much for coming. I'm the Incredible Sulk. This is the Sulk stream. And this is called The Entire Biblical Story. I'm going to call it the Devil's Gambit. Satan's Gambit. That's what we're going to call it, all right?
For centuries, the devil has been the laughingstock of Christians. We've boiled him down to a mindless, raging being, creating chaos just for the sake of chaos. But have we ever considered Satan as an actual character in the biblical story? A character with actual emotions, realistic motivations, and specific goals. A character who does nothing by accident and thinks through his every move. A character who had a real chance at changing the direction of human history forever. Have we ever asked the question, why did Satan really rebel from God?
Arden Shara says, yeah, I fucked up, I'll fix it. It's okay. No, it's good. I mean, if people get here at 7, that's fine. I'm just not streaming.
Why does he hate humanity so much? And what was his unique connection to Jesus? I mean, all the strongest villains in our favorite movies have goals and morals they believe to be right. So why would the ultimate villain be evil just for the sake of evil? And what does the Bible actually say about Satan? Throughout the whole Bible, we encounter glimpses of Satan's personality, fragments that hint at a more complex motivation. By putting all the pieces together, we get convincing answers to these tough questions, revealing a character with far more understandable objectives. The story I'm about to tell you deepens the entire biblical narrative, including all the major characters, and it starts in a time before humans.
There we go. So yeah, we're going to understand the motivations of Satan. And I feel like Satan is in a lot of control these days, and we're going to go into a war, and then, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of bullshit going on, right? With the disasters, and then, the closures, and then, there's going to be an election that's going to be stolen coming up. And I don't think Trump's going to win. I just don't think so, right? They stole it last time. What's going to stop him from stealing it again, right? And then we're going to go to war, and then it's going to be a big-ass problem. So
many eons ago, God created a heavenly species. Glorious angelic beings who worship.
Arden Shara says, I heard Satan was a cool dude. At least that's what Hollywood is telling me. Well, there's a good reason, because he runs Hollywood, right? He runs the whole academic thing. He's behind most of politicians, and yeah. Yep, he's got a lot of control these
around
days.
The throne of their creator. But among the worshippers,
let's watch.
God anointed one for a special purpose. Described as a signet of perfection and blameless in his ways, he was covered with many precious gemstones and was exalted to a special place in heaven. God himself chose.
Why would you cover him in gemstones? And why would they be precious? If you're God, why would you have... I mean, you can't just make gemstones, right? Because
chose this angel to be a guardian cherub, a morning star, shining bright in all his splendor in the full presence of God. His name was Lucifer, meaning bearer of light.
Sweet.
Despite his high position, he believed he was deserving of more. He wanted to exalt himself above his angelic brethren and become like the Most High.
Boss Buckaroo says he was a good guy at first. Yeah, well, they're explaining that he was like the number one dude, right? But he got too big for his britches, and he wanted to, take over. But God probably knew this from the beginning, right? Before he even, made Satan or Lucifer. Before he even made Lucifer and like promoted him and stuff like that, he was like, "This is going to be a problem. This guy's going to be a problem. But maybe I can use it to my advantage." I don't think God's stupid.
Although ambitious, Lucifer served his creator blamelessly.
Or whatever.
Until God made a decision that would change everything. He decided to create again. The angels marveled at God's creation of light and of the stars. They sang praises as he created plant life and the land in which it would grow. They rejoiced as they watched him form the beasts of the field, the fish of the sea, and the birds of the sky. Everything he created was good. But on the sixth day, God made his most controversial decision, creating mankind. At this point, God says to himself a phrase that Lucifer never expected he would hear. "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion."
Okay, so then they made Adam. So I think it's pretty clear that God's a dude. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, the goddess," and like God's a woman or God's non-binary. But Adam was a dude.
This creation was special, uniquely loved and appreciated by God.
I'm just saying.
And yet they seemed so feeble and vulnerable. What exactly made this creation so special? Well, Lucifer was soon to find out, because God had a vision. A plan that would cause Lucifer to question everything. A plan to crown this pathetic little race of creatures with glory and honor. To bring them near to God.
Nice.
To establish them as God's own possession. To receive new, perfect bodies. To become heirs to his kingdom.
Okay, all right. I'm not going to say my body's perfect. It ain't bad, right? I'm trying my best. Arden Shara says, "LOL, God needed to create again because he fucked up the first time. Does he or does he not make mistakes? Seems people can't agree on that one." I don't think he makes mistakes. I think he, I don't know. It's the people that are making the mistakes, right? Because he tries to imbue people with like will and stuff because God has free will. But I'm not even sure if people completely have free will, right? Because, it's all part of God's plan and stuff. So maybe it's just how the story's meant to go. I don't think it's a mistake, right? I think it's just kind of how things need to unfold. It's not like he was like, oopsie, and then sent in a flood to wipe everybody out. He knew he was going to do that. He's God, right? He understands what's going to happen and why it's going to happen, even though we don't. So I wouldn't call it a mistake. It was probably very much on purpose.
To inherit eternal life.
Now, is that a cool thing to do? I don't know. Killing a bunch of people for doing things that you knew that they would do is, I don't know. I have no idea. What do you want to call cool or not? It seems pretty messed up, but, maybe it just had to happen. Sometimes things just have to happen.
Spiritual rewards and dominion in heaven. And most critically, a plan in which they would become like the Most High.
Background noise says, "Why would Lucifer get so mad about hanging out in heaven? We got stuck with sneaky snakes and women that make bad decisions." And then Arden Shire says, "Heaven seems fucking boring." Well, there's a reason we're alive, right? There's a reason we're not in heaven right now. When you go to heaven, heaven's nice and stuff, right? And there's like, you could do whatever you want and, you get whatever you want and shit like that. But eventually, yeah, that gets boring. And so you want some sort of challenge. You want to be useful and needed. And if God needs you on earth to fulfill some sort of prophecy, I'm sure a lot of us volunteered for the job, right? Because we're hanging out in heaven. We're all like, you know what? I want to be useful. So send me down, right? And then it's like hell divers. We go down in like one of those rockets, and then it's similar. It's similar to that. So I think we're here by choice, right? I don't think we're here just by accident or against our will in any way. I think we came here by choice as some sort of like draftees.
There was abundant rejoicing at the creation of the world in heaven. But Lucifer felt a growing resentment towards God's new love.
Petty bitch.
Why would God create an entirely new species to...
Is Lucifer a girl? I don't know. Are angels... Do angels have... I mean, God's a guy, right? Because he made Adam, and Adam was a dude. Or did they only make Adam a dude when they're all like, okay, he needs a woman around? I don't know. They're not clear about that part. It was probably originally a dude. So there's just a bunch of dudes up in heaven.
Worship him, when Lucifer and the angels had been doing it perfectly their entire lives.
Well, right? Women don't go to heaven. It wouldn't be heaven for men if women went to heaven.
But to Lucifer's growing unease, there was even more to God's exaltation of humanity.
They're not
He planned on giving the world to come, not...
But I think Lucifer is trans. Have you seen the statue of Lucifer? And he's got an erection and he's got tits and stuff like that. I think that's probably where the entire tranny thing is, because Satan wants the people of Earth to be in his image instead of God's image. So God would be a dude, and then Lucifer would be a tranny. Okay, we're working this out.
Not to the angels, but to the humans. He planned to send the angels to the humans as servants. And ultimately, his new species would have authority to judge Lucifer and his brethren. God's ultimate creation.
Boss Buckaroo says Lilith was the first woman, but she disobeyed God and was cast out and then created Eve from Adam. Why did they have the first one? I don't know the story of Lilith. I know he was like Adam's first wife, and I think that's hilarious that Adam had a first wife and it just didn't work out. Probably because she was like too crazy. And then they're all like, let's make one a little bit more like a dude. We'll just make it out of the dude. And yeah, she'll be less crazy, I suppose.
Wasn't the angels after all.
I bet Lilith was out of her mind, but like good in the sack.
It was these pathetic little animals. Lucifer was an angel brimming with confidence. He assumed...
The dude says he's like Slanesh from 40K or Vivek from Elder Scrolls, an androgynous mix. Satan? Well, you see, I mean, everybody's seen the statue of Satan. He's got the boobs, and he's got the horns, and he's got the wiener, right? And it's like sticking out, and he does like the hand things. So that's a tranny, right? When you see a tranny walking down the street, he looks just like the Satan statue. He doesn't look like any creation of God.
That if God were to bless his creation, he would be the first. To him, angels were the supreme beings. And
Arden Shara says Lilith was probably a Latina, so I could see why you'd want to restart, right? You know, try again. Because, you know, if you have kids with her, which is like very likely because she's a Latina, then she's going to age like so fast. She can get fat immediately.
Described as the morning star, he was the cream of the crop. He adored himself, and having humanity elevated above him was incredibly unfair.
So Lucifer adored himself, and he would look in the mirror with his tits and his dick, and he was all like, yeah, oh yeah, this is the whole thing. And I imagine a lot of trannies do that today, right? They look in the mirror and they're all like, yeah, I'm nailing it. This is exactly the direction I'm going.
This is when Lucifer came up with a plan. A plan to prove to God and the angels that God was making a mistake.
Right.
Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden, and Lucifer identified weaknesses that could be exploited.
Florida was the Garden of Eden. I'm going to just go ahead and say that because they don't specifically say where it was, right? So I'm going to say Florida because it's nice here.
The tree of knowledge of good and evil gave him an opportunity to strike. And with a simple question and a simple lie, Lucifer had successfully triggered the fall of humanity. He demonstrated to all the heavenly hosts and God himself just how easy it was to lead these creatures astray. This was the first step in Lucifer's vengeful vision. His objective was simple: to prove that the human race was incapable of fulfilling God's perfect design for them, to prove that humans weren't worthy of inheriting eternal life or inheriting God's creation, and ultimately, to get God to annihilate humanity and bless the angels instead. After the fall of man,
it's pretty ambitious to try to trick God, right? I mean, he's perfect and all-knowing and stuff, and you're like, I'm gonna fool this guy. So you have to think like Lucifer, even though I'm sure he's like a very intelligent being, right? He's got to be a little retarded. He's got to be kind of retarded to think he can trick an omnipotent deity, right? And then be like, haha, I fool. It's just like, you know how the Jews sacrifice the chickens, like beat the hell out of chickens and send them to hell to trick God in a way. Are you sure that's going to work? I don't think that's going to work.
God found wickedness in the heart of Lucifer, and he was cast out from heaven. He lost his status and his wisdom was corrupted, but he wasn't alone. Because God was so intent on exalting humanity, and Lucifer had just proven how easily they were deceived, many of his angelic brothers abandoned their heavenly posts as well.
Ardenshire says, Lucifer, it says, you done fucked up, Dad. Your hobby is shit. Let me fix it. Like it's a train set in the basement. He's all like, you're doing it wrong. And then he goes and he turns on the thing and the thing just bursts into flames. He's like, this is your fault, Dad. That's pretty much it. He's just a petulant child. I mean, in the story.
And joined the rebellion. At that time, a third of the angels were convinced and deserted their creator. This is the moment when Lucifer, the guardian cherub, died. And Satan, the adversary of mankind,
It is a bold strategy. It is a bold strategy.
With this new name came a new role. He would accuse mankind day and night, accusing them of sinning and failing to live up to the image of God. Satan knew that if humanity were to succumb to sin, God's justice would guarantee their destruction, proving that the blessing should have remained with the angels all along, and ultimately, that Satan was right. But at the fall of mankind, God had an unexpected response. Once Adam and Eve ate of the forbidden fruit, they became sinners before God. They were ashamed of their nakedness and decided to run away and hide. But instead of destroying them for their betrayal, God sought them out. He created clothing to cover them and performed the first sacrifice. At humanity's lowest moment, God stood by their side. But Satan now had an effective argument to level against God.
Imagine making like a stick figure out of yourself and being like, this is going to be just as good as me. You know it's not, right? If you make like a tiny retarded version of yourself, let's say a child, right? You make a child. They're tiny retarded versions of yourself. For you to think it's going to live up to you is probably not going to work out, right? Because they're stupid and they're babies, right? But maybe they'll grow up and then eventually make you proud. And maybe that was his plan. I'm sure it was, right?
God's justice had been compromised.
And then Satan puts the entire motion into, the entire thing into motion, right? So he's working for God still, even though he kind of doesn't even know it. Right?
His gracious response to humanity's rebellion. And eventually, he would have to destroy them. The damage was done. Satan would embody his dual title as tempter and accuser, tempting the offspring of Eve to sin and accusing them of being failures when they did. This was his life's work, to ensure not a single human could live up to God's glorious design. And Satan's successful sabotage continued on and on throughout the generations. God saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. God regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So he flooded the world, killing every single human.
I don't think God regretted it. I don't think he regretted it. I think it was part of the plan, and this just needed to happen.
Satan had achieved the first...
Regret doesn't seem like something God would have, right? I mean, messing up doesn't seem like something he would do as like perfection.
Of his objective, but God's mercy got in the way. Yet again, God had shown undeserved mercy to humanity, and yet again, he relented from executing his justice by rightfully destroying them. Satan knew that if he kept up the efforts, someday soon God would have to annihilate humanity, until a certain man named Job offered a glimpse of hope for all of mankind.
The dude says regret would be beyond God. Yeah, because he knows exactly what's going to happen, right? And he's a higher intellect than even, Satan, right? And obviously the men he created. So I don't think he did anything by accident. Yeah, a lot of the stuff we see him doing is pretty bad. Like wiping out the entire planet would seem pretty bad, but it's not like you're shaking an Etch-a-Sketch, right? There's little seeds from before that people will learn from.
About 400 years after the global flood, all the angels came to present themselves before God, and Satan was among them. The angels listened in anticipation as God and Satan made a wager of cosmic significance.
Yeah, another thing is, apparently God is a gambling man, which is stupid if you're gambling against God, the guy who like controls everything. Like he's like the basketball coach or something like that, and you're like betting against him. Or yeah, why would you bet against the guy who literally controls the outcome of everything?
You see, before this conversation, Satan was roaming the earth, tempting the offspring of Eve to sin and accusing them of being failures. But there arose one man who Satan seemed to be ignoring. His name was Job, a man who was blameless and upright. Known as the greatest man of the East, Job would regularly sacrifice offerings just in case any of his children cursed God in their hearts. He was a man who truly sought to live a righteous life.
Arden Shire says, I'd be a gambler too if I controlled the odds. I know, right? Like, can you imagine the conversation between, Satan and God's all like, or Satan's like, let's make a wager, let's make a bet. And God's like, okay. Idiot.
A man who seemed to be upholding God's
I'm like controlling this whole thing, right? I made you, and I made you just as smart as you are. So what do you think's going to happen if we gamble? You think you're going to win? You're not.
Image better than many before him. But Satan disputed the heart behind Job's righteousness. He was convinced that Job's faith was in the blessings God had given him,
the house always wins. The casino always wins, right? No matter what. Even if Satan takes a few W's, in the end, it's always going to be the house always wins, right? And if Satan kept winning, then he would just be ejected from the casino. That's how they do it, right? They get all pissy and they're like, you know what? You're not allowed back.
God himself. He stated that if God were to remove the blessings from Job, he would surely curse him to his face. God, willing to test his faith, agreed, and from that moment, Job fell into the hands of the devil. All his material possessions were destroyed, and all of his family and servants, except for his wife, were killed in tragic circumstances. But instead of running from God or cursing him like his ancestors, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. But there was one more thing Satan had yet to do. One last trick up his sleeve. The angels gathered once more in God's presence, and God questioned Satan once more. He reminded Satan that his efforts against Job had proven fruitless. This wasn't good for Satan, because if this human could resist his allure, he would be forced to admit that God was right and would be made a fool of before all of the heavenly hosts.
He can't let God be right on this one. You just can't let God be right on this one because he wants to be God, right? But it's God. So you are like living in a thing where he made again, and I don't think Satan's like getting the gravity or like the real concept of what God is. Right? So why would you do a bunch of gambling against this deity who controls the odds and you know, try to make him look like a fool? It just doesn't
So he snapped back at God
Lucifer
and
seems like a
challenged his
retard.
mercy again.
Job was big.
Strike his flesh and bones, he said. Surely then he will curse you to your face. God once again agreed, but made it clear that Satan wasn't to take Job's life in the process. Job was covered from head to toe in blistering sores. His situation got worse and worse, but through it all, Job never cursed his Lord. For the first time in human record, one of Satan's accusations fell flat. His promise that Job would blaspheme God hadn't come to pass, and as a reward for his endurance, Job was exalted twice as high as he was when it all began. Through the faithfulness of Job, humanity had achieved their first minor victory, dealing Satan a small but shameful defeat. But things weren't all hopeful for mankind.
Chad Job.
Though he didn't curse God, Job still had to repent for some of his conduct.
So, like, okay, you're Job and you have like a good thing going, and like you're behind God and stuff, and you got like servants, and you have a hot wife, and like all the good things in life, and then, you know, God's like, okay, just to prove a point, I'm gonna like fuck your shit up, right? Just to prove a point to this tranny, I'm gonna fuck your shit up. And he does. And Job just is the ultimate stoic, and he's like, yeah, all right, whatever. You know, she wasn't that hot. And those servants, they sucked. So, yep. Yeah, give me sores. Okay, cool. I'm all right.
He fell short and was still undeserving of God's mercy. Before a holy God, he was still covered in filthy rags.
Apparently, you have to do your laundry before you go in front of God, because there's a lot of things about like filthy rags and being dirty, which I imagine is why people put on their Sunday best, right? The black ladies with their big hats and stuff. And Kitty, do you have a Sunday best with like a big old hat and stuff? And a fan and stuff, and you go to black church? God, I want to go to a black church, right? They seem like they have so much fun, and I'm sure they have barbecue.
It was clear to the heavenly hosts, and especially clear to Satan, that humans had a hard time living up to their image-bearing status. Mankind was still lost.
Arden Shire says, I'll say it now, humans have a better moral compass than our deities. No. I don't think so. I think it's similar. It's based on the deities, but even the deities, you know, they're not, well, at least God is doing everything perfectly, right? And he's giving man this option to do everything like God, but we're also fucking retarded. You know how like retarded Satan is? Like, we're a lot more retarded than that. Like, Satan thinks he can trick God, and we're like much more retarded than that. So, I mean, a lot of people are doing their best, right? And yeah, we have a moral compass, but it's just a lot of us aren't great at following it. And some of us don't even give a shit, right? Like, we've gotten so worldly and you know, think this is the only realm that has to be worried about, that we just totally disregard any sort of moral compass or anything like that, right? People, like rich people, right, that do everything just to get a few more dollars, and like their entire reason for being on this earth is just to get a number in a bank account a little larger. They have a moral compass. They just don't find any use for it. They never pull it out and like look at the map and be like, where am I? So yeah, humans, I mean, we have a moral compass, and it is just as capable as the deities' moral compass. We just have to decide to use it?
Fumbling around in the dark, piecing together their own idea of what it means to obey God and reflect his image. So God revealed something to man that would help restore their relationship, and something that the devil would quickly take advantage of. Around 640 years after Job, a man named Moses was given the law.
The dude says, yes, first you must be clean, then you will know God's true power. Yeah, there's a lot of like cleaning rituals in all types of religions. There's like, being clean is a big part of it. You can't like have dirty anything. And there's purification rituals, and that seems to be a common thread through all religions, right? You come correct, right? You don't come filthy. You come correct.
By God himself. A system in which people could atone for their sins by sacrificing an animal in their place. God had offered a temporary solution to the problem of man's evil that Satan had highlighted time and time again. But it was just that, temporary. Satan knew the offering of bulls and goats was incapable of truly satisfying God's wrath and cleansing the people of sin. He knew that the millions of animals that were slaughtered every year in God's name could never validate mankind as a race. He knew that God didn't even desire the sacrifices of animals.
Why would he? Why would he want that? Right? People are like, here, I'm going to send you this lamb. And then they cut that lamb's head off. And then God's like, okay, I didn't ask you to do that, but I guess it's a nice sentiment. But can you stop? Can you not do that? Because I don't need it. And, I can make lambs up here. I don't need your lambs. I get you're trying to like send me gifts and stuff. It's like a cat bringing his owner like a rat and stuff like that. Like, that's sweet, but get it off my fucking porch.
In light of this, Satan took advantage of the new law given by God to his people and saw great success in tempting many to disobey him.
Art Shara says, LOL, did anyone tell Indians about this cleanliness requirement? No. And yeah. Dude says fuck them. And they're kind of dirty inside and out too. They're a race of scammers. So I don't think God is like stoked on Indians. I mean, maybe some of them, sure, but like not the majority.
Because the
law, imagine you get born as an Indian. Like, you get sent down and born as an Indian. Like, what did you do? Like, oh fuck, man, I didn't want to. The smell, my God, the smell, and it's hot. You're like in Mumbai or something, and like there's billions other people, right? Everyone's pooping all around you. I'd be like, is this Earth? Is this Earth? Or did I just like skip a level and I go all the way down?
Or illuminated the difference between good and evil. Satan knew exactly what God was.
Indians believe in reincarnation, right? That's what they believe in, reincarnation. So what did you do in a past life to become Indian? Because that sucks. Right? Like, everyone's washing their hands in your food and stuff like that, and like sneezing without covering, and then like it just stinks. It just stinks. It smells. Right? What did you do in a past life to become an Indian? Something.
Pleased with, and what he disapproved of.
They do drink.
This made his job far easier, causing generations of kings to be led astray by foreign wives, unclean activities, and
foreign wives. So, okay. Become a straight, so you're not allowed to date foreign chicks. No race mixing. That's what I'm gathering from this, right? No race mixing. That's what I'm gathering from this, right? It's part of the temptations of Earth. There's money, and then there's foreign wives. You can have like a local bitch, but foreign wives, no, that's not what the plan was.
Their own selfish pride.
That's what I gather.
Once again, it seemed God's solution to mankind's problem had only...
The dude says no race mixing, based. Exactly. And like, who's more based than God, right? And then Satan is like the opposite of based. and he's like one of those blue hairs, and he's got like a nose ring and stuff like that, and he's got tits and stuff, even though he's got a wiener, and yeah, that's not very based. So it's the opposite of being based. That's what Satan is. And then you have God, and he's like, dude, that's not, no race mixing.
He served to strengthen the devil's arguments. As long as humans continued to sin, they were deserving of death.
Boston Buckaroo says Jews don't fully accept mixed race Jews. I know that.
The Lord looked down from heaven on the children of man.
I mean, blacks don't accept mixed race blacks, do they? Asian, like Japanese people aren't like, stoked on like half Korean, half Japanese people. It's just how it is. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but apparently God is saying it's wrong. But everybody's like that. Everybody's like that. That's just how it is. And this push to like make everybody the same and the melting pot and stuff like that, that's Satan shit, right? We're beautiful in our uniqueness, right? We're beautiful in our own kind of cultural way. And if you mix that up, you lose that color, right? If you mix all the colors up, you just get like a shitty gray looking color, and it's not as beautiful as it was before. If I was making a painting, I wouldn't just smear a bunch of paint all over the canvas and be like, yeah, that's exactly how I want it. That looks great. No, you have certain colors over here, and you have certain ones over here, and then you step back, and it's a beautiful mosaic, and then you can finally see the full picture, right? If you mix up the colors like that, it's just going to look like shit.
To see if there were any who understood, who sought after God, but they had all turned aside. Every one of them wandered the earth with filthy clothes. No one was righteous.
Why is everyone so fucking dirty, right? Do your laundry. Apparently God is like very serious about doing your laundry. And they say cleanliness is next to godliness and stuff. Don't be filthy. Don't be filthy. I know it's harder than it sounds, right? Because the last thing I want to do is clean. But, sometimes you gotta. Sometimes you gotta. Right? I do shower every day, though. I do. I keep myself clean. Right?
Not.
And then my wife keeps the house clean.
Even one.
That's what she does. Ardenshire says, so segregation is a Jesus thing? I don't know, Ardenshire. Are there gates when you get into heaven? Or is it just a fucking free-for-all and you just waltz right in? Yes, of course segregation is a Jesus thing. What do you mean? Yeah. Yes. That's the whole thing. Right? Certain people go here, certain people go here based on your personality and your characteristics.
More than 1,000 years after the law was instituted, a prophet named Zechariah saw something incredibly interesting. Despite playing a minor role among the prophets of old,
Onia says, you speak for Cthulhu, John? What does he say? I don't speak for Cthulhu. Cthulhu is I don't know what Cthulhu would say. Gargle, gargle? I don't know. He's got a bunch of tendons coming out of his thing. He's Cthulhu. He says his own thing. He's I have no idea. He's an interdimensional being that doesn't need to say anything because he just destroys shit, right? That's what Cthulhu says. He's just like, whatever, fuck this noise, smash. That's what Cthulhu says.
Zechariah was one of the few humans who met one of history's most mysterious characters. A being who had appeared in glimpses to Zechariah's ancestors. A being who would play a critical role in the upcoming events. And a being who would spell disaster for Satan's accusations. A man named Joshua served as high priest at the time of Zechariah's vision. Due to their
Joshua? I thought Joshua was I thought Joshua meant Jesus. Like it was I thought it meant Jesus. I thought Joshua came from the word Jesus and it was just kind of anglicized. But no?
Exclusive passage to God. The high priest had to follow stringent purity laws and was...
Onias says, Hergle gurgle, he has spoken. He hath spoken, Onias. We're doing the biblical talk.
Often considered the most holy among men. Yet Zechariah's vision
Yeshua.
opened with Joshua standing.
Yeshua. So it's not Joshua. I thought Yeshua was just another form of Joshua, though. And then all those were just another different forms of Jesus.
Before his men and the being, dressed in filthy rags.
Again, the rags.
Satan appeared and started accusing Joshua before God and the being. This is the greatest among them? Even the holiest of humans is covered in filth and mud.
So give him a shower. Just give him a shower and he'll be fine, right? Just because he's a little dirty now doesn't mean he's going to stay dirty, right? You can hose him down and, think about living, pre-deluge, right? And deluge means flood. So you live before the great flood. You don't have hot water or like electricity or anything like that. And, you wake up every day, you have to wear basically the same clothes because it's pretty hard to like get new clothes because you have to farm the cotton and like pick it and then make it into clothes. I'm just saying, cut him some slack, give him a day to go and do his laundry.
What chance do they have in God's presence? Why don't you just destroy them already? God had heard enough. The being before Joshua rebuked the devil and silenced him. He then turned to Joshua and said to those nearby, "Take off his filthy clothes." Satan listened in utter disbelief as the being...
Can somebody do me a favor and like give me the definition for rebuke? Because I know it's like turn away or like not accept, but like, is there somebody have a better definition? I know generally what it means, but
being said the following words to Joshua.
How you doing,
I
man?
have taken away your sin, and I will put fine garments on you. But it can't be so.
Arden Shara says, "Thou shalt not smell of shit in the presence of the Lord." Yeah, or just in general, right? Like, don't go around smelling like shit all the time because that's not cool for like anybody, especially yourself. And you don't. The thing about that. And it's weird because it's like it's an allegory or for sin because you don't really know if you smell like shit, right? And you're not really sure if you're living a life of sin or not. But you are. So wash that shit off of you, right? And in like allegorical terms, wash the sin away. Wash that shitty smell off of you. Because it's pissing everybody off, and only you don't notice it.
He's done nothing to deserve to be cleansed. If anything, he should be destroyed.
Oh, here we go. The dude says, rebuke means express sharp disapproval or criticism of someone because of their behavior or action. And then rebuke, Onias, rebuke, transitive verb to criticize, sharply, reprimand, synonym, admonish, similar, admonish to express sharp, yep. So, yeah, exactly what I thought, but thank you guys. I appreciate it.
But the being, ignoring Satan's accusations,
I do not
said
rebuke
to them, "You are men symbolic of things to come. The Lord Almighty says, I will remove the sin of this land in a single day."
And boom, he's clean.
Satan listened, baffled by the promise that was spoken.
You no longer smell like an
Indian. A promise
Indian.
that would erase...
You don't smell Indian anymore, right? Imagine living like that. And like, so when Indians go to like Western countries, like London or something like that, and they get off the plane, are they like, "Oh my God, I don't smell feces"? Or do they just still smell feces because they got off a plane from India? Yeah. I got in an Uber with an Indian guy. It was like one of those rideshare ones. So it wasn't the driver, right? It was just, we were like sharing the ride. You know how Uber does that sometimes. And like, I smelled a little bit of marijuana. And I got into this car and then I just got smacked in the face with the most heinous scent I've ever smelled in my entire life. And the driver must have been crying tears because the dude next to me really smelled like a paper bag filled with diarrhea. He fucking reeked. And then I didn't say anything because obviously I was trying to be polite and I'm a little stoned. I don't care. And then the Indian guy goes like this. And then he looks over at me and he's like smoking that weed, huh? I was like, how the fuck did you smell that over your own shit smell? Should I say something back? I didn't say anything back. I should have. I should have been like, how do you smell that over like the brimstone flavored cologne that you must have put on today? You smell like a pack of assholes, like a wild pack of assholes running around eating shits. It was seriously heinous. It was in San Francisco too. It wasn't even in India, right? If it was in India, I'd be like, okay, maybe it's a cultural thing. But he was in San Francisco, so he was walking around like a civilized place, more or less, and just smelling like that. Dude, how do you walk in? Like, what if you walked into like a bakery or something like that? And then, somebody walked in behind you and they're like, this bakery smells like ass. I'm going to leave. I don't want these donuts. These are asshole donuts. I'd be mad. I'd be like, get out of my fucking bakery.
It's all of his tireless
work. Get out of my bakery.
All of his accusations.
Go take a shower. Go wash your clothes. Right? I don't know how you stink like that and nobody tells you this.
And all of his authority in a single day. But how is this even possible? And who is this being saying these things? The being that spoke to Joshua was known as the Angel of the Lord.
Cool. It's a metal band. Angel of the Lord. It's a Christian metal band. Christian metal bands are really funny. Onia says, when Indians get off the plane, they still smell shit because they smell themselves. No, they don't smell themselves, right? They've gone nose blind to it, which is, when you're in a certain smelling environment, your senses kind of fight back by just turning off, right? Like if you're at a concert and it's really loud, your ears will like, I'm just going to go deaf for a little while. And then that's it. It's the same for noses, right? The nose was like, okay, I let you know there's a shit around here. And now that you know that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn off because it's really distracting. And then the Indians just, I don't know, fight through that. They understand it smells like shit, but they've lived in it for so long. It's just, I don't know if they know what fresh air smells like.
For the next 500 years after Zechariah's vision, God seemed to take a back seat. From Satan's eyes, it seemed like God had run out of ideas to redeem humanity. He'd implemented animal sacrifice. He'd instituted a law to make man clean. He even purged a great number of them and started again. But none of these solutions could redeem mankind. According to God's justice, humanity should have been entirely exterminated eons ago. But according to God's mercy, humanity continued to live and multiply in their sinful state. Soon enough, God would have to decide. He couldn't claim both justice and mercy. He would have to choose one. While enjoying a period of victory,
Okay.
Satan...
But again, back to the Indians. Why is God letting the Indians be so many Indians? I mean, it really... What if you don't go to hell? What if when you die, you just show up in India? Maybe that happens, right? And that's why there's so many Indians, because, you can't all, like, show up in heaven. I mean, you can, but you end up in India. And then you're like, fuck, I'm an Indian. I better become a doctor so I can, like, fondle women while they're sleeping. Which I saw an article, and that's pretty common.
couldn't help but feel anxious. The vision of Zechariah haunted him. The being promised to erase...
David Thoreau says, are they born nose deaf? No, they're not born nose deaf, but, a baby is going to cry regardless. And, Indian babies probably don't cry because they're like, uncomfortable. They're like, oh my God, it stinks here. Why does it stink so bad? But they don't speak Indian or whatever. And then they're just like, wah, right? And so the people that live there don't understand that this baby is crying because it stinks here. It stinks. And by the time the Indian grows up and learns Indian, It's gone nose blind by then. So it doesn't communicate that, oh my God, it fucking reeks here. So then they just go on and make new babies, and those new babies are like, oh my God, what did I do in a past life to get this stench? Right? And then it just keeps going like that. Right? That before they even can speak the words that, oh my God, it smells like shit here, they've already gone completely nose blind to it.
It's the sin of the whole land in a single day. Could it really be possible? God's word had been recorded by prophets and kings, and while studying the scriptures, Satan hunted for clues to help him prepare for...
Oneas says people make fun of the Indian girl that did the dance about not shitting for a week and getting constipated, but I say she was base because she refused to be a street shitter. So she spoke English, and like really good English, and I think she was from like America or Australia or the West or something like that, where she grew up where it didn't constantly stink everywhere. So she was probably like, well, I'm not going to, just shit wherever I am. I'm not an animal. But indeed, Indians just shit where they are, just wherever they happen to be. If they're getting one of those fizzy pop drinks where they put their hands in it and stuff, they just poop right there. Poop right in front of it.
For God's redemptive plan. He refused to let anyone or anything erase all of his hard...
It's a nasty country. I don't know why... You can walk places. If you're born in India, there's like enough land where you can like walk out of there, right? And like go somewhere else. There's not like mountains in the way, is there? I guess you have to go through like Pakistan, and they don't like Indians, even though they basically are Indians. And then there's Nepal up here, and there's pretty big mountains there. So maybe they are just stuck, right? Maybe they are just stuck in India. Maybe God made it like that, where... the shitty places to be are kind of hard to get in and out of. Sub-Saharan Africa is bordered by sea, and then an impassable desert on the top. Maybe there's a reason for that. I'm just saying.
Work in a single day. The thought of it terrified him. One night, a glimmering star appeared above a town called Bethlehem.
David Thoreau says they got tigers and shit. And, like, tigers eat Indians? I know this is bad, but I feel bad for the tigers. Like, you really are that hard up where you have to eat Indians? There's not anything that stinks less in there, like a skunk or something?
A young mother named Mary gave birth to her firstborn child.
Something that doesn't reek like an Indian?
Stable.
I'm being real hard on Indians tonight.
God's plan started to...
Or is it God? Is it God? God is speaking through me and saying, wash your asses, Indians. Wash them. Wash. And not in the Ganges, all right? You throw dead bodies in there. If you go and look at the Ganges, you'll see just dead bodies floating down, right? Just bobbing down, because that's like their religion, right? And it's like, that's an honor to get thrown into the Ganges River and float out into the Indian Ocean. The river that they all have to drink from and like use, what the fuck? There's no sanitation department. There's no like Indian headquarters of toilets. There's no toilet king.
To take shape in Satan's
mind. I know there's rich people in India. I know for a fact there's rich people in India. Can't they be like, I'm going to buy everybody a toilet?
He wanted to redeem humanity by becoming a human himself. But it seemed too easy. It was as if God had given Satan the blueprint for his plan in the scriptures. He was playing with an open hand. Satan once again took initiative and moved promptly. He ordered the death of every boy under the age of 2 through King Herod, hoping to swiftly deal with this rising threat. But the boy...
Okay, every baby under the age of 2, and that's pretty messed up, right? I think it was every firstborn under the age of 2. But, that's sucks. That's sad. Do those babies make it to heaven? Or I know there's this idea of purgatory, but that might be a Catholic thing. And, I don't know how well the Catholics are. The Catholics are kind of weird because the Pope is kind of turned, right? There's rogue Catholics who are Catholics but don't believe what the Pope is spouting, because the Pope has definitely been compromised. The Pope's been compromised. I mean, he supports like birth control and like condoms for Africans and like gay stuff. So that doesn't seem like the Pope. That doesn't seem like any Pope in history. So yeah. But do the babies make it to heaven? They must. They must. Is this before original sin? I'm not sure.
He escaped with his family to Egypt, and from Egypt, moved to Nazareth. Satan had been outsmarted by God. Not only did he fail to kill Jesus as a baby, he contributed to something much, much worse.
Boston Buckaroo says, I only attend Latin Mass, the Norvis Ordo, which I imagine means new order, is dog shit liberal talking points now. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? I don't have a problem with like Catholics or Catholicism in general. It's like the leadership is very clearly been corrupted, right? And I don't know how normal Catholics don't clearly see this. Or do they? They must, right? They're like, the Pope is like on the gay train. What? That's like the most un-Catholic thing ever. Right? Didn't they kill a bunch of gay people? Isn't like the Pope's supposed to be anti-gay? Like that's like the big main thing.
In his pursuit of the child, he actually fulfilled an Old Testament prophecy, helping to confirm the boy's identity as Messiah. God's ultimate...
David Thoreau says 90% of the world river pollution comes from two rivers. Any ideas? I'm going to say the Ganges and the Yellow River in China. Am I right?
The plan to redeem humanity had finally arrived, and Satan had already failed to stop it. The race against time had officially begun, but the devil, well versed in Old Testament scripture, still had some ideas he believed could bring God's plan to a catastrophic end. As time went on, the boy from Nazareth grew in strength and was filled with wisdom. Satan observed his greatest rival and worst enemy grow up before him like a tender shoot. There was nothing about it.
David Thoreau says the Yangtze and the Ganges. Okay, the Yangtze was my second guess. Yeah, but the Ganges is pretty clear. You would think it's like the Nile, perhaps, but no. But the Yangtze and the Ganges, yeah, like in Southeast Asia, they just throw their trash into the water, into the river, right? Like they don't like pick it up. The garbage men don't come and pick up their trash. Everyone just puts their trash in a trash bag and then hucks it into the river. And they all do that, and it's insane to me. Like, it's gone to them, but then the people's trash from upriver just comes to them, right? So why don't they get together and be like, yo, let's all stop throwing our trash into the river so I don't have to have a bunch of trash floating by my house all the time. But no, they're like, let's just throw it in the river, and then it's somebody else's problem. Hey, who threw trash in my river? Right? You can't fucking talk to each other? You can't, like, organize something?
That made him stand out. No beauty or majesty. But to Satan, this humble carpenter was his ultimate fixation. While Satan prepared his next attack, God was...
Boston Buckaroo says, I'm what's referred to as a Sedvanticist Catholic, which denies the current Pope and the newer Vatican II teachings, of which are much more liberal than the original 1962 changeover. Okay, so is that movement gaining steam? Because it should. It absolutely should. What the Pope is doing to the Catholic Church is, I mean, it seems evil. It seems evil, right? And the Protestants are probably like, ha ha ha. We bailed like hundreds of years ago. I don't know what the Proddies are up to, but they're having pretty similar issues too. All the world religions, all the big world religions have gotten corrupted in one way or another by Satan, I think, right? The Jehovah's Witnesses is obviously a clear example, but I think the Jehovah's Witnesses started that way, being corrupted. But I'm sure the Mormons and the Methodists, and I don't know about like the Hindus and stuff though. The Muslims, I mean, the Muslims are the Muslims. Okay. The Muslims are going to be the Muslims. There's nothing you can do about that.
Already making his next move. Jesus was baptized by a prophet named John in the wilderness before a great crowd of people.
Just a couple of
As
buff
he
dudes hanging out in the river.
From the flowing river, the Spirit came upon him from heaven, and God himself confirmed to all those listening that this was in fact his son. God had publicly announced his arrival as man on earth. He was finally here, and his public ministry was about to begin. Satan didn't know what the mission entailed. And
David Thoreau says they throw full cow carcasses into the river. Why? To make it holy? In like the Ganges, they throw because they worship cows or something like that. I heard the Hindus worship cows because cow dung grows psychedelic mushrooms. And so they eat the mushrooms out of the cow dung and they have these religious experiences. And then they think the cows must be deities of some sort. I've heard that. It makes sense to me. Also, I heard the first communion that like Jesus would do, it wasn't like a cracker, it was a mushroom cap, right? So that was the body of Christ that they had to take. So everybody was slightly tripping every Sunday, which if that was still a thing, I would show up and I'd be like, I would like to slightly trip too.
And he didn't know what God had in store, but he knew one thing. If God had any hope of redeeming humanity, this human form would be essential to the plan's success.
Boston Buckaroo says more Catholics go to the TLM than the Novus Ordo by thousands, and I've never been in an empty church for Mass like when I have to attend a regular Mass event. Even Xmas midnight Mass at regular church is empty. Really? Really? So it must be a very serious movement away from, because a lot of the Catholics must be like the Pope. What are you doing? What are you doing? Right? And so there has to be a large turn away. And that's got to really piss off the Catholic Church because they have a lot of money, right? The Catholic Church has tons of money. And if people start not going to Catholic Church anymore, that is going to threaten their money supply. So it must bother them. So what motivation does the Pope have to push this whole gay agenda? What do they have on the Pope? Who is the Pope?
So Satan set out to derail God's plan by using the strongest weapon in his arsenal, temptation. But Satan didn't catch God off guard with this move. This was actually something they agreed upon.
David Thoreau says they think there's a dozen gods in cow's ass. In cow's ass? No fooling. There's a dozen cows in there's a dozen gods in cow's ass. Cow's asses. So like, did they look? Or do they just assume? And they drink cow pee. Whatever. It's not my job. It's not my job to judge. But I will do it for free. That's fucking weird.
Like the debate they had over Job, Satan and God met again to settle things once and for all. Finally, Satan had a chance to go up against God himself, in a form that he was confident he could tarnish.
And then he comes as Jesus. Boston says, in just the last 20 years, the Novus Ordo has changed significantly in some major ways. The new Catholic Church has changed prayers that are thousands of years old, the Rosary, and even catechism. I don't know what catechism is. I'm not Catholic, so I don't know. I mean, what's the point of changing a religion? Is it still a religion if you can just like change it like that? Because it doesn't seem like it. Like I can't just change You don't just change Judaism or something like that. You don't change religions. Like, right? You get new religions, but you don't like change the old one, right? You get like the Protestants. They're all like, we're not going to do the Catholic thing anymore. We're going to take a bunch of things from the Catholics, but we're going to like add divorce and stuff because, King Henry wants to cut a bunch of bitches' heads off. So we're going to be Proddies now. All right, fine. Go be Proddies. We're still going to be Catholics. But now the Catholics are like, we're just going to change what Catholicism means. No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
So God led Jesus into the wilderness by the Spirit, and there he met the accuser for a face-off that would change everything. Because the Father and Son were one, Satan's goal was simple: separate them. If he could trick Jesus into obeying him instead of God, he would be successful in separating the Father and Son, causing the Son to sin and ultimately invalidating humanity for good.
Wait, okay, so Jesus was God. So Satan thinks he can trick Jesus instead of God, but Jesus is God. So why does Satan think he can trick Jesus? Well, he doesn't. He doesn't end up tricking him. He tries a bunch of times.
He figured that if God in human form could remain sinless, then the last hope for mankind would be snuffed out. But he needed something to wager, something that Jesus would actually consider doing. In his first temptation...
Background noise says, my stoner thought, if we are created in his image, then what if each one of us is a tangent, different lives full of decision made that God has lived, and it's a prank on Satan? Well, yeah, we could just be all different points of experience, and we're all... Do I looks like I have horns? Is this telling you something? Is this telling me something? That I have horns? Huh? I don't know. We could be all different points of God, right? And we're just experiencing different points of view because that's what we're here to do. We're here to experience, and that's what God wants us to do, is experience life. And that's why he doesn't want us just to gain as much money as we possibly can. Because, when you play a video game that has like a monetary system in it, you don't just try to make as much money in that video game. You actually play the fucking video game, right? Like you do the missions and stuff, and you have like the difficult choices. You don't just try to make the number bigger so you can buy a weapon that you're never going to use because you don't actually do the missions. So maybe that's what this is. Maybe we're just meant to have experiences, and if we don't have those experiences, we're like wasting our lives.
Satan challenged Jesus to turn stones into bread, a simple but powerful test, considering Jesus had just gone 40 days without food. The devil targeted the lust of his flesh. Being fully man, Satan knew that Jesus was desperate to eat just like any other man in that condition. Right? Yeah. But in spite of his raging hunger, he answered the devil with scripture about God's providence.
All right, okay, David sent this. Let's see what we got. So this is the cow chart of where your God is. So do they pray to the different parts of the cow? When I eat a steak, which God of theirs am I eating? I know that seems extremely offensive, but it's a fair question. Am I eating the rump roast Vishnu over here? Or the multi-headed hump that's over? This is ridiculous. Are you fucking serious? The leg is this guy over here. This guy's got a sitar, which is like a guitar, only with a s at the beginning. And there's a bladder god, a tit god. There's a tit god. Indians are weird, man. This is weird. So like different parts of the cow are just different gods. And what about these dudes up here? Are they just the main like overarching gods? So when I eat a steak, I'm eating a specific god, right? I'm eating a part of a specific god. Not the cow, but the god. Now, when I drink milk, what am I drinking? God juice? I like milk. I drink milk and I enjoy it. It could be. I don't know. Thank you for sending that.
But Satan's next temptation was more cunning than the last. This time he took Jesus to the highest point of the temple and challenged him to jump, quoting a promise from God that the Messiah wouldn't suffer harm from a fall. Satan employed a tactic.
David says they have a festival where they play in cow shit. Yeah, I've seen that where they like throw cow shit at each other, which, I mean, doesn't seem as disgusting as like throwing dog shit at each other. But it's still feces, man. And what did God say about being clean, right? Coming correct, right? Like, if your clothes are covered with cow shit, God's going to be like, dude, why are you covered with cow shit? And the Indian's going to be like, what? I didn't even notice. And he's like head to toe covered in cow shit. Right? He just stinks, man. He just stinks. He's like waiting in line to get into heaven. And then there's like a big gap because no one wants to stand around him. He doesn't understand why. He has no idea because he's gone nose blind to it. Right? So he gets turned right around. When he gets to those gates, he's like, Peter's like, no, go. Go. Right? Go. You stink. Get out of here. Right? We're trying to run an establishment here. And then no.
From the days of Eden, where he would deceive his target into believing God might not be so trustworthy. If Jesus were to jump, he would show that the relationship between them wasn't one of complete trust. But Jesus answered the devil with scripture.
David says they brush their teeth with it. No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't fucking brush their teeth with shit. No, they don't. You send me a video of an Indian guy brushing his teeth with shit, and I'll believe it. No, they don't.
Of his own. Do not put the Lord your God to the test.
Hey, Ramzo.
Satan had suffered 2 defeats so far.
Oh, you're in the right chat, dude. Come on.
So for his final temptation, he had no choice but to wager everything at his disposal. He took
Remziel doesn't want to be seen with us, which is fine. I get it, Rem. I get it.
Jesus to a high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. Kingdoms he had held captive in sin for thousands of years. A world under his control. A world which was his to offer. In exchange, the Son of God was asked to bow down and worship the devil in return. Jesus paused. He knew that someday all the kingdoms of the world would be his, that he would be made king over them all. He had no doubt in God's promise of that, but he reflected on what it would take to get there. If he listened to the devil and conceded, he could inherit the world without undergoing the torturous future to come. If he'd simply bow down to Satan, all of his suffering would be finished. But at the same rate...
Interesting. Boston Buckaroo says, Christ taught to reject modernity, not to conform to this world, but to be separate from it. Yeah, worldliness, right? You shouldn't be worldly. And, I mean, we live in a worldly world where you're constantly getting messages of, you know, you should be like this. I feel like the boomers really fell hard for this materialism idea, right? Because a boomer's whole world is his things, is his stuff, is his materials. And they don't really, put much emphasis on community or family or stuff like that. Again, like not all boomers, but on the whole, the majority of boomers have fell for this consumerism type of lifestyle. And, I mean, they're gonna pay for it if they're not paying for it now. But yeah, you see it a lot. You see a boomer with a big old house and they sit around it and like they have all their nice stuff, like their guitars or their guns or whatever they're into. And, you know, it's just a big ass house and their kids aren't around. Their grandkids aren't around. And they just sit there alone and they just, I have stuff. Great, you have stuff. Who gives a shit you have stuff, right? Like, most of that stuff is going to get thrown away when you die. Most of it's going to get thrown away when you die, and then no one's going to remember you, right? Who is going to remember you? Your grandkids that you never see? Your kids that you ignored most of your life, right? They're like, oh, well, I did my 18 years. It's your turn now. Is that seriously how you see us? Is that, you see us as like a burden that you had to do, and you'd much rather play with your trains or whatever stupid bullshit you have? Doesn't seem like a good generation to me.
If God bowed down before Satan, he would be admitting that no human was deserving, that the blessing all those eons ago was misplaced, and ultimately...
Obedient to Yah says they have cooked and eaten cow shit. Mersh posted it a week ago. Ew. Ew. Is it like a cow patty? Like, they put it between burger buns and stuff because they can't actually have burgers, so they eat just cow shit. Ew. That's all I have to say to that. Ew. I mean, I didn't think I could be more grossed out by Indians, but you're eating like poop patties, poop burgers. I mean, congratulations to fucking grossing me out further.
Ultimately, that Satan was right.
That's nasty. Do they fry it? What do they do? Is it like a thing where they flip it and stuff? Who thought of that? Who was the first person to be like, you know what? We can't eat this cow because it's holy, but there's plenty of poop. There's plenty of poop, everybody, and everyone's starving, even though there's like lots of cows around. Just eat the cow, man. Just eat the cow. You can still have the mushrooms. Just eat the cow.
But Jesus, strengthened by the Spirit, rebuked the devil.
Yes, David, I want to see the video. Please send it to me.
Exclaiming that there is only one name worthy of worship, God the Creator. With his powerful words, Jesus sent Satan away and was tended to by angels. Satan's attempt at the Son of Man had returned fruitless. Despite his terrible condition, Jesus remained faithful throughout the temptation and did not sin. Witnessing Jesus' faith, Satan writhed as he relived the agony of Job's victory all over again.
Ramsey says, this video is great, by the way, very educational. Thank you, Rem.
But this time, the stakes were
Hop in the chat more, Rem. Don't just lurk, okay? Hop in the chat. Tell us you're here.
much higher. So he changed tact and waited for another opportunity. It seemed Satan's king had been dethroned, but his strongest piece, his secret weapon, was quietly sitting in the back, waiting for permission to make a move. For the next 3 years, Jesus went throughout the land undoing all of Satan's hard work. He healed those suffering in sickness. He raised people from the dead, and he expelled...
Raising people from the dead seems less based. That seems like a more... There's Jewish traditions where they try to reincarnate bodies through rituals, where they like cut them because they think the soul can like re-enter through like a wound and stuff like that. And they try, and I don't know if it's ever worked, but maybe it has, because they do try it.
Many of Satan's demonic kin from their hosts. At his sight, the demons quaked in fear and begged not to be destroyed by him. Every exorcism was a torturous reunion between a rebellious angel and his all-powerful creator. But Satan pondered, what was the point of all this? Why had the all-powerful God, creator of the earth, subjected himself within its confines? By clothing himself in human flesh, the limitless had limited himself. Shackled by hunger, bound by space and time, and subject to exhaustion, he seemed intent on living out the authentic human experience without taking any shortcuts. It wasn't until Satan overheard
It's to do the one sacrifice that's actually going to work, right? God sacrifices himself. Because, right, people sacrificed animals and stuff to God to, like, cleanse their sins, but that's not going to cut it. And God said he didn't even want it anyway. So, but if God were to sacrifice himself to cleanse the sins of humanity, it would make it permanent. It would make it so everybody could have salvation without having to do a bunch of sacrificing themselves.
Jesus speaking to his disciples about his mission on earth, that the picture became a little more clear.
Here we go. There we go. There's the bell. I love that bell. The dude, $5 says another fun stream. Cheers, John. Thank you, dude.
While the disciples ignorantly dismissed the outrageous plan Jesus shared, the devil adapted his plans accordingly. God was enacting a strategy, a way to fulfill the threat of Zechariah's vision and undermine all of Satan's accusations.
And we're learning about God.
But the secret to his plan wasn't in a single nation or a single people. It was in a single...
Sunday school is not this fun. I don't know. I never went to Sunday school.
...man and a single sacrifice. Despite humanity's pitiful weakness, God was proving that this man could achieve something that none before him came close to achieving: perfection. After living the perfect life, the man would be bound to the altar as the perfect lamb, a sinless sacrifice to end all sacrifices. Satan realized that if Jesus somehow managed to carry out this mission successfully, humanity would be permanently redeemed, freed from his accusations and worthy to receive the blessings God had denied Satan in the beginning.
Right.
God's justice would finally be satisfied in the slaying of his son, allowing his...
So he gets both. And so God at the end gets both. He gets this justice and mercy. And Satan's all like, no, you're going to have to pick one. These humans are like vile and evil and sinners and stuff like that. And you have to set your justice upon them. And God's like, no, I'm like merciful and stuff. And then Satan's like, no, you got to pick one, man. And then God came up with a plan. He's like, I'm gonna do it to myself, and then that'll work.
His mercy to abound freely upon those undeserving wretches.
Crazy, you're crazy, God.
Satan had to move, and fast. So he spoke with God one final time. Have you considered my son Jesus? There is no one on earth like him. He's blameless and upright. Have you not protected him all these years? From his birth, through his childhood, and even during his ministry. You've put a wall of safety around him. Remove your hand of protection, and let's see whether he can endure what is to come. Just like every human before him, he will ultimately let you down.
And so Satan says, stop protecting Jesus. And then Jesus goes through the whole thing, which eventually absolves mankind of their sins. So he plays himself. Satan literally played himself like a fool.
Very well, God answered. The wager was on again, but with one major difference.
Clever.
This time, the fate of all humanity hung in the balance. God would show before all the powers and principalities that humans deserved his blessing. Or Satan would prove before all the heavenly hosts that he deserved this misplaced honor. The stakes were higher than ever. Both parties' objectives hinged on whether Jesus could do the impossible. The devil got an idea. If he could at any point get the Messiah to stumble into sin, his perfect sacrifice would be invalidated, and the final hope of redeeming humanity would be lost. If God in human form...
Again, the devil, Satan, is trying to trick God into committing sin. So that's impossible, right? Like, God can't even lie, because if God were to lie, it would automatically become true because he's God. He makes things that are true. So I don't know if he made Satan retarded, right? Is God bored? Is God bored, or this is just a plan?
Couldn't prove himself worthy of the blessing. Then no other hope for these creatures remained.
So if he were to make Jesus sin, it wouldn't be a sin because, again, he's literally God.
Leaving Satan to experience a resurrection of status. At this point, Satan knew the cross was unavoidable. So instead of evading it, he embraced it as an opportunity to sabotage Jesus before God. Satan devised a scheme to make use of every human at his disposal. He had many pieces to move.
He's got a lot of humans these days, at his disposal, right? I mean, they even look like them with the boobs and the wieners and stuff like that. You want to look like the guy, right?
God had only one. Satan had to find a way to make Jesus sin before he escaped to the grave, ensuring any hope of humanity died with him. Jesus had put up a firm resistance in the wilderness, so Satan knew what he was up against. He would have to attack from every angle, humiliate and torture him, strip him of all comfort to make it impossible for Jesus to remain perfect. While sharing his final meal with his beloved disciples, Satan entered into one of Jesus' companions to turn Jesus over to the chief priests. But before it even happened, Jesus announced...
The Pharisees, right? Which are the Jews. The Pharisees were the chief priests that had him killed, and the whole thing. The 30 pieces of silvers, and which is like $2,000. 30 ounces of silver, and I'm going to say a piece is roughly an ounce, right? Something like that. So 30 ounces of silver is like, they're like $25 a pop, and I don't know, a couple $1,000. I mean, that's not a lot. That's really not a lot to turn in the Son of God. You can't get a better price for that. You can't get like, I don't know, a country or a continent or something like that. You go for like, a car payment. Or like a month of rent. That's what you're going with? It's just cheap, man.
This betrayal at the dinner table. He seemed prepared, but Satan would not be unnerved, because the torture had only just begun. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Christ was overwhelmed with emotion. Knowing he'd just been handed over to the devil, he begged God to find another way to redeem humanity. But
background noise on this episode of Pranking Satan. Jesus. It does seem like a prank. It seems like God is just fucking with Satan, right? Because it's like messing with a retard. It's like, right? Because God knows what's going to happen. And then it's like dealing with a child. Like, God knows what's going to happen. And then Satan comes to him and Satan's like, I want to make a wager with you. And God's like, okay. Okay. I'm controlling the whole thing. And then he's setting Satan up to literally be his own downfall. Right? Because if Jesus doesn't get crucified, then humanity isn't saved. But Satan goes to God and says, remove his protection barrier. So he gets crucified. So he loses at his own game.
Deep down he knew. He was the final piece.
All right.
The king of kings. The future of mankind would be determined in the next 15...
Blue, we're not watching cartoons. We're watching cartoons. But it's like biblical cartoons. But it's just hang out.
Hours.
Just hang out
and it
watch.
rested solely on Jesus' shoulders. And with a simple kiss, Satan triggered the final temptation of Jesus. For the next 15 hours, he would be subject to a level of suffering never before experienced by man. Unfathomable agony on the physical, emotional, and spiritual level. These events would be later known as the Passion of Christ. Christ was arrested and taken to an illegal trial.
Mr. Blue says VeggieTales? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, this is VeggieTales. I've never seen VeggieTales, but that's a Bible cartoon. Obedient to Yah says, as you get closer to the black hole's event horizon, if you were to turn around, you could see behind you, which means that you would be looking back into the universe from outside of space and time, right? In this way, you were able to talk to anyone else inside the universe. You would see the universe as it was created and ended simultaneously and be able to tell anyone to do anything. Interesting. So what happens when you go all the way in? Are you just not in the universe anymore? Are you in another universe? I don't know. I don't know about black holes like that. It would seem that you would just get ripped to shreds if you went into a black hole, but I'm not a physicist. You see, I can get up and I can walk places, and I don't like lean back in a chair and be like, the world, or I can't do that robot voice, right? I can't do the Stephen Hawking robot face voice. He's in hell, by the way, Stephen Hawking. I have nothing to base that on, but I'm just going to say Stephen Hawking is in hell.
His disciples scattered out of fear, and his best friend denied him.
If I were
3
God,
times.
I would put Stephen Hawking in hell. And I would put stairs everywhere, right? And it would be like really rocky. So he would like be bumping around if he wanted to go anywhere.
After a corrupt ordeal involving false witnesses and many deceptions, Jesus was convicted and sentenced to crucifixion. He was flogged and whipped, mocked and scorned. They dressed him in a purple robe and twisted together a crown of thorns, forcing it into his head. They took turns punching him, spitting on him, and tearing out his beard. He was tossed.
Mr. Blue says, I might be too high for all this. Keep getting higher. And then see what happens. Because you could like loop around, right? Sometimes you're in that like uncanny valley of highness, right? Where you're high, sure, right? But you're not like high enough. But you think you're too high. You think you're too high, but if you get a little bit higher, right? Just a little bit higher, then you'll be able to see, right? Just like Obedience talking about. If you go a little bit past that event horizon, you turn around, you can see the big picture. Just like it's like a Monet painting.
Tossed into the open, where his own people formed a crowd encircling him. The leaders of the people choosing to worship their enemy's king. They hated Rome, but they hated...
Mr. Blue says, sweet, where's the cucumber? He's the funniest. Up your butt. Yeah.
Hated God more.
These are the jokes,
Jesus
people.
looked upon the very people he was there to
jokes.
redeem with sadness as they spat, mocked, and ridiculed their only redemptive hope. He carried his own cross to the mount where he was hung. Nails were driven into his hands and feet, pinning him to the wood and forcing his lacerated back to drag up and down the plank as he tried to grasp his next breath. While Satan was doing his worst, the earth cried out in agony as its maker was being slain. The sky became dark and the ground shook. But Satan...
Okay, all right, I got sent this link, and this must be hell. This must be hell, right? I can't imagine this not being hell. This is a pit of manure that these people are playing in, having a goodly old time. These villagers are gathering ammunition in preparation for an epic battle. Ew! A cattle dung fight marks the end of a Hindu Diwali festival, which is, I don't know, I think it's like Halloween for them. But they're in a big cistern, I want to say, a cistern of poopy. And this is just how they live, right? This is what hell is, right? This is the description of hell. When you're like, head first in a pit of poop. And oh, due to the coronavirus, there was a ban on the festival. Yeah, because we don't want to be dirty. We don't want to be gross, right? We don't want to get like COVID or anything. But I'm going to do a swan dive into this pile of shit. Now it's all good. We start 4 p.m. by explaining the program to the children. Where do they get all this poop? They go around collecting poop. Some human poop is in there. You know that, right? Because they don't have like a specific cow pooping area and human pooping area. It just kind of mixes, right? So they're playing in not just cow poop. There's also people poop in there. Like a lot. They bathe in the lake and gather cow dung from the villagers' houses. Like inside the villagers' houses. Gotcha. And make heaps of the cow dung. Look at this. Look at this guy. Poop. Just poop all over him. Just poop. Oh my God. No, India. No, India, why? Why do you gotta do that to us? Why do you gotta do that to us, India? Look at this poor kid back here. He's just like, I'm just part of the poop. At least this dude has the smarts to wear goggles, like glasses, right? He's like, I'm not getting poop in my eye. No pink eye for me. No pink eye for me. No. Everyone else is getting pink eye.
ಬಹಳ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಆಚರಣೆ ಬೀರೇಶ್ವರ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನದ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನಡೆಸ್ತಾರೆ.
Oh, they're having fun. The yearly ritual is as much about fun as it is perceived as health benefits. Health benefits, right? So make sure you're safe from COVID. Let's hop into the poop pool. The poop pool. The poop. It's too much poop.
ಪ್ರತಿ ವರ್ಷ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸಗಣಿನೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲಾನು ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಸೇರಿಸಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ದೊಡ್ಡವರೆಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ಆಟಾಡುವಂತ ಒಂದಿದ್ದು ನಮ್ ನಂಬಿಕೆ.
Our belief is that we have seen coronavirus and other viruses, but the poop protects us. Is that what you're going to say?
ವೈರಸ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಅಂತ ವೈರಸ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂತು. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಏನಂತಾರೆ ಈ ತರ ಆಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಮ್ಗೆ
we won't get any infections by playing with cow poop. You're not right. You are completely wrong. You will get all types of infections, and you should notice that because people around you die like all the time of random infections. This is horrid. This is terrible. That's a terrible video you sent me.
Refused to relent.
That's a terrible video.
He was so close.
He styled his hair with the poop, right? It was like gel. He was like, "Oh, I'm looking good." It's a poop mirror too.
Death. And yet Jesus hadn't opened his mouth.
The wet
against
slapping
the Lord.
sounds. Yeah.
Satan panicked.
What do you expect it to sound like? It's going to sound like you're stirring mac and cheese.
He started insulting the Son of Man, echoing his challenge
Mr. Blue says there's so much to digest. It's already been digested.
in the wilderness. He saved others. Let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one. If you are the King of the Jews, save yourself. Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us. Satan was exposing humans in all their depraved wickedness before the God.
O'Neill says they probably get parasites from the shit constantly. Yeah, dude. I mean, they probably all have tapeworms and stuff. I don't think they care. I mean, what's the lifespan in India? Too long. Too long. If you're able to say it stinks here, you've lived too long in India. So, what do they care if they get parasites? Right? You think these parasites... You know what? I kind of doubt it, though, because the food is insanely spicy. So they're trying to just burn everything out, right? I guarantee you that was not just cow poop. That there was a healthy portion of human feces in that. It's like 25% human.
Who had come to save them. And finally, Jesus opened his mouth.
Why would you send me that? I know I asked.
While bearing all the sin of mankind in his flesh, he gazed up to heaven, and seeing only darkness, he muttered, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
Oh, did the devil win?
Was that it? Was all the pain and suffering too much to bear? Did he finally turn away from God and curse him in his last moments? Did Jesus die in sin like the rest of mankind? Had Satan just won?
Mr. Blue says they're born in the poop, molded by it. You merely adopted the poop. I was born in it. Are they the bane of poop? They don't see toilet paper until they illegally migrate to Canada. Poor Canada, right? They must be filling their public pools with poop by now. Because, I mean, they need a place, right? It's like a bird bath. Birds even bathe in water, right? But Indians bathe in poop. A bird will bathe in clean water. And an Indian will dive into a puddle of poop and just smear it all over his face like that, right? And be like, look at my hair. Look at my hair. Ew, dude. Ew. How do you... And then these people, like, come to Canada expecting to, like, fit in? No.
After Jesus had breathed his last, Satan waited for the confirmation of his victory. He expected that if Jesus did maintain his sinlessness after the onslaught of suffering, he would rise again as he promised. Seconds turned to minutes, minutes turned to hours, hours turned to days. Every second that passed gave Satan more confidence that Christ wasn't coming back.
I don't know why Satan's confident in the least bit. I mean, he's been played like a fool this entire time. And, God's playing 5D chess, right? And Satan's just like bringing this down on himself. Because the whole thing wouldn't have started unless Satan was like, you know what, I'm going to start this.
All factors seem to point to a victory for Satan. Scattered disciples, widespread chaos, and a wounded planet. But on the third day, Satan trembled. The stone barring the tomb had been rolled away, and the body...
Mr. Blue says we have signs on some of the beaches asking people not to poop in the sand. Truly a magical place. In Canada? They're asking people not to poop in the sand? Dude, what the fuck, man? I know they do that in like Asia. They poop in the sand, they bury it, and they do no wipers and stuff. Not that they poop clean. You know how sometimes when you poop, like you wipe after and you're like, oh, I didn't even need to wipe. It's totally clean. That's not the type of poops they have. They have the dirty, sloppy kind of poop that if you were to wipe it, you would have no friction. There would be no friction behind that. And it would be like, watery. And they poop that out, and then they just pull their pants up, or whatever they have, and just keep on trucking. They just fucking keep on trucking with a dirty butt Indian. And they're like, it doesn't matter. I'm diving in poop later, so I'll just wash it off with cow poop.
The body of his nemesis had vanished.
How sometimes
on the third...
I don't need to take a shower. I'm going to jump in the pool later, and then I'll, No, they have that, but with poop. Right? I don't need to wipe my poop. I'm going to go dive in poop, and then I'm going to have poop for lunch. I'm going to have a nice poop patty. And, I would like my poop patty extra rare. I like it a little moist.
Day, the reality of Jesus' victory over death hit him all at once, confirmed by his resurrection. On the third day, the deceiver of the nations discovered that he was the one who'd been deceived.
That's nasty. Because then I just imagine a bowl in the middle of the table with little rolled up turds.
Being deployed by the Father to carry his Son through the tortures that would redeem humanity, ensuring every prophecy was fulfilled and all the conditions were met to grant humanity the glory they never deserved.
The glory they never deserved, right? We didn't deserve heaven. Well, we're all sinners. We're all fucked up. Don't even say you're not fucked up or you didn't do any fucked up shit in your lifetime. Everybody did fucked up shit in their lifetime. Everybody's done stuff they regret and like is not like the most Jesus-y God thing, right? That's just we're humans. That's what we do. We didn't deserve this planet or heaven, or I don't know what the Indians did, but they probably deserve what they got. David says, at the museum in France, there are "Don't shit in the bushes" written in Mandarin Chinese because of culture. Like at the Louvre? At the Louvre? I've been there, and it's full of Chinese people. It is full of Chinese people. Oh my God.
A deep resentment bubbled within Satan, a hatred unknown to mortal men.
Goofy Boots says, I used to be a real piece of shit. Stop it.
A loathing that had been brewing for eons, ready to burst forth in unprecedented outrage. Jesus had burdened himself with the sins of every human, taking them onto his own sinless body and removing them via his death and resurrection. For the first time ever, humanity was worthy to receive the blessings promised to them. And, most importantly, humanity was permanently freed from Satan's powerful accusations.
Mr. Blue says more of a log roll, like a Yule log roll. Don't ruin that for me. My wife makes an excellent Yule log, and it is so fucking good. It is so good. Don't even ruin that for me, because next time I'm going to eat that, I'm going to be thinking of like poop, right? I'm going to be thinking of like Man, those poor Indians they just have to roll up poop and slice it, slice up the poop into like yule. And then they're like, poop. That's terrible. That's a terrible way to live.
No longer did Satan have the platform to accuse man before God. As far as God was concerned, Satan had no evidence that a redeemed believer was deserving of judgment.
Boston Buckaroo says Indian orgies are called shitty bang bangs. You guys are fucking children. You guys are fucking children.
Desperately looking for a loophole, quickly identified something to exploit. Under this new covenant of grace, whoever believed in the Son would have eternal life, but whoever didn't would still perish. Satan realized that though Christ offered the gift of grace to all sinners...
Mr. Blue says, does she put nuts in it, John? Are there like nuts in the poop roll? No, they're not. And she doesn't make poop. It's like a Yule log. It's a delicious dessert. And it's like a giant... It's very good. It's very good. You think they have like ants on a log over in India and it's like literally ants on a turd? They just snap into it. Right? They have poop on there. Oh, you got a little poop right here. Ew.
Not all sinners would accept that gift. And if a sinner chose to remain in their sin, they'd be spitting in the face of their all-loving creator.
Right. So you got it. Right? Jesus... So God did like the sacrifice, right? Like they were sacrificing lambs and stuff. And God was like, that's cool. I don't want that, but whatever. And he was like, I can sacrifice myself. You don't have to sacrifice lambs anymore. And you are cleansed of the sin just by me doing that. Okay. All you have to do is believe that. Okay. That's all you have to do is just like with your mind, be okay. And then you are in. But if you like don't believe that and then have a bunch of anxiety about being alive and shit, then you're just going to live in hell. That's what you're going to do. You're just going to live in hell. And that's right. Because aren't you just filled with anxiety all the time about living in this, shitty place? Sorry for the pun. But yeah, all you need to do is accept it. Accept the gift. And the same thing works with evil too. Just like the allegory with vampires, right? You have to invite the evil in. You have to accept the evil. So it works both ways. You can accept evil into your life, or you can accept salvation and forgiveness and all that and all the good stuff. It's a choice. It's the choice that you have. So yeah.
And
don't fucking dive into poop. Don't dive into poop. That seems like, don't do that, right? Because God wants you clean. He wants you like a level of clean that's acceptable, where people aren't like trying to stand away from you because you stink like cow shit. Cow shit isn't scentless either. Have you ever driven by like a cow processing place? They have one in California. Like you drive down I-5 or something like that, and you can smell it for miles, and it smells awful. It smells like the worst smell you could ever smell. So they must smell this cow shit. And before they dive in, do you just not smell that? Do you not smell that?
Own condemnation. This was an outcome Satan desperately desired. And with the rapid growth of Christianity taking over, Satan had to act quickly. So he started to prowl, scouring the earth for weakness and preying upon them. He abandoned the name Accuser, for that power had been vanquished, and adopted the new title.
Pig farms are worse, and I believe you. I believe pig farms are worse. That's pig farms. Pigs are gross. Pigs are gross animals. But dude, like the cow, like the mass cow places where, oh my God, you can smell them for 100 miles. It is amazing. The stench is terrible.
Title of Devourer.
It's the 15.
Satan saw some success in deceiving and devouring many over the following centuries. But those who believed in Jesus seemed to have other plans. They started gathering together for times of worship and encouragement. They called it church. And they started calling themselves Christians. Satan identified this fellowship as a threat. Though the early church was powerful in denying his attempts to creep in, its resistance faltered as time progressed. Satan secured quite an influential foothold in many congregations, deceiving people and luring them back outside to the dark world of sin.
Dan Stott says, after working at Home Depot in the garden department, I got used to steer manure. It's not as bad as human shit. So that's different. That's different. Like, they treat that manure so it doesn't stink as bad, right? Because they know people are going to be like digging their hands into it. That's totally different. It's like, it's the unprocessed type of pure poop. And like the cows are covered in it. They're just covered in it. Right? And it's like sad, dude, because they don't need to live like that. I'm talking about this specific place in California that's enormous, right? It's terrible. The scent, it's blinding. Like, really, there's no escaping of it. And you just have to floor it past there, right? Because it stinks so bad for miles.
And death. But he found that there were always some who resisted him. It was as if they had been protected by God himself.
Dan Snott says, I know it. It's in Norco. NorCal? Northern California? Yeah, it's in Northern California. It's on your way to LA, right? So it's on the I want to say it's the I-5. I can't believe I can't remember what the road is because I drove it all the time.
From Satan's
I'm pretty
attacks.
sure it's the I-5.
These new
there's one in Bakersfield, but the Bakersfield one isn't the one I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure.
Saints seem to be equipped with some special
North Corona. No, that's not the one.
Armor, granting them immunity to the devil's intrusions. The group was called
Yes,
the
I'm
Elect,
talking about India.
And Satan realized he was powerless.
Dirty Brown Soul got it. I'm talking about India, right? It might as well be the same place because it doesn't have clear pools of poop, right? At least the poop is there incidentally in California. They don't want the poop there. In India, they gather the poop up and they're not like gathering it to be rid of it. No, they're like, this will be great to swim in. Okay. Ew. Ew, you dirty people.
Against them. Their stalwart defense frustrated Satan to no end. Satan's dominion over people was now challenged by these pockets of resistance, granted immunity by the sacrifice of Jesus, a sacrifice that Satan partially enabled. He needed something.
That's true. So Satan is in churches. If you go to a church, don't just automatically trust a church, okay? Just like that. He takes over churches just like he's taken over the Pope. Like, you know, I'm not going to say all churches, but definitely some of them. I want to say like those big mega churches. What's that guy that looks like a demon that like flies around on jets and he runs those mega churches? I don't know. He looks like he's a demon. He's got like the cheekbones and stuff like that. He's got millions of dollars. Millions and millions of dollars from running mega churches.
Bigger.
Have you guys ever seen The Righteous Gemstones? That's pretty good.
It was obvious their strength came through
like
Jesus' power, so Satan adapted his plans accordingly. But how could he possibly
Obedience says, I'm an all churches are bad Christian. Well, I'm not going to say all churches are bad, but I don't know. Like if you get to a church to a certain size, then there's a lot of money flowing through that, and that's going to attract a certain type of person who is weak to the temptations of Satan. So, and it's not Joel Osteen. It's not Joel Osteen. I know who Joel Osteen is, but it's not him, but he is also probably one of them.
Contend with the risen Savior in ascended form, backed by the Father and Spirit. It was 3 against 1. Coordinating mankind into a force against them was an important and insulting step, but that army alone wouldn't stand a chance against the Holy Trinity. Satan needed a trinity of his own.
Obedience to us is the idea of church is itself is anti-biblical. I would like to hear more about your opinion on that, but we are out of time, but we'll discuss that. We'll discuss that on tomorrow night, another night. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I don't know. But our time has come to an end. And thank you so much for joining me tonight on this shitty stream. And it was just, there was a lot of shit. There was a lot of shit in this stream. And a lot of good talk about God. It was a very interesting stream. I had fun. I hope you guys had fun too. I hope you learned something. And take it away with you and do some thinking about it. I hope you guys have a good night. Thank you so much for coming. Hit the like button on your way out. I rated Mersh. If you want to go head on over to Mersh, be my guest. Do what you can to help me out, guys. Tickle the algorithm. Share this. If you want to support me. But do hit that like button because I really appreciate that. Anyways, guys, you have a wonderful night. You be good to each other. Be a good cult member, right? Make me proud. Make Daddy Sulk proud, all right? You already do. Anyways, go out there, get a good night's sleep, drink a lot of water, and take care of yourselves because I care about you too. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Love you. Bye.
I'm an incredible soul, unhinged and enraged like a bulldog's fierce growl. I'm spitting fire, burning through these trees, questioning the world, unraveling conspiracies. Talking about Bigfoot, yes, monster too. Government lies, they're feeding me their goo. I'm diving deep into this rabbit hole, uncovering the truth, setting fire to their control. I got small nipples, but my voice is loud, rolling like thunder in this crazy crowd. They say I'm crazy, but I call it woke, unraveling the madness with every word I spoke.
Satan continued.
All right. Fuck. Love you.